June Morrow held out 2 20s and said, "Evan told me to give you this for the weekday visits." Until that moment, I believed I had been helping my son with a few favors. Looking at the canvas bag on June's floor, with 7 house keys clipped inside it, I wondered how many people had paid for hours I had never agreed to sell, and what would happen to their animals if I walked away. I did not take the money. I set it on the narrow table beside June's front door and picked up the care card Evan had written for Otis, her old beagle. Then I took a picture of the card and called June back before she could leave for work. "I need you to tell me exactly what Evan promised you," I said. That was the first thing I did. It was also the first time in 2 months that I stopped treating my confusion as a small price for being useful. June looked from the money to me. She was a woman in her early 60s with silver hair cut close at the chin and the quick, apologetic manner of someone who had spent years smoothing trouble before it reached anyone else. "Regular weekday coverage," she said. "You on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Evan on the other 2 days or someone he arranged. 6 weeks at a time." "Did he say I worked for him?" "He said you were his weekday person." The answer did not come with thunder. The refrigerator hummed behind us. Otis's nails clicked twice on the kitchen floor, and then he lowered himself onto the mat as carefully as a man sitting in church. June pushed the money toward me again. "I thought he paid you. Ruth, I would never—" "I know. Then what have I been paying for?" That was the larger question, but it could wait 3 minutes. Otis had eaten. His water was fresh. The back door was latched. Those were facts I could hold. "For now," I said, "you paid Evan for a plan you believed included me. I did not agree to that plan. I'm going to finish this morning's visit, and then we are going to decide where your key belongs." June sat down on the bottom stair. "How many visits did you think were favors?" "At first, 3. And now?" I looked at the bag. Each key had a paper tag in Evan's handwriting. Otis, Pepper, Max and Minnie, Leo, Sadie, Bird, Noon. The 7th tag said Hall Closet because he had reused an old label and written a client's name on the back. Now I need to ask 7 people. June gave me her direct number, though it was already printed at the bottom of Otis's card. Evan had told me to call him if there were questions. I had accepted that because he was my son and because, in the beginning, it really had been his favor to ask. 2 months earlier, he had called while I was folding towels. "Mom, I'm stuck across town. Mrs. Morrow's dog needs to be let out. You remember Otis." I did remember him. For 23 years, I had worked the front desk at Larkspur Veterinary Clinic. I knew Otis as a puppy who had once eaten the corner of a paperback novel. I had retired from the clinic, not from recognizing a familiar brown face. I drove over. June had left the key with Evan because he was helping her coordinate a few errands after a wrist injury. I filled the water bowl, walked Otis around the block, and sent Evan a message that said, "All good." The next favor was for Pepper, a small terrier whose owner had a delayed flight. The third was 2 cats whose automatic feeder had stopped turning. After that, the requests came closer together. "Could you stop by on your way to the library? Could you do noon instead of 2? I already told them you'd be there. They're counting on us." Us was a soft word. It let him stand beside me in a sentence while I stood alone in somebody else's kitchen. Still, nothing had seemed serious enough to challenge. Evan had lost his warehouse job in the spring when the company cut its evening shift. He picked up delivery work, small errands, anything people in Larkspur needed. Pauline Neighbor Services was the name he put on a plain blue business card. I thought the pet visits were one part of it and that I was helping until he found his feet. I did not know I was the feet. At 8:45, my phone chimed. The reminder said, "Max and Minnie, 9. I had entered the reminders myself because Evan's messages often arrived while I was doing something else. June watched me silence it.
Do you have to go?
The cats still need what somebody promised them. Are you going to confront him? I'm going to find out who is covered today, then I'll speak to Evan. She nodded, but her face showed disappointment. Not in me. She wanted the hard thing named at once. I wanted that too. I also knew that anger could wait on a porch. An animal could not understand why a bowl stayed empty. I returned Otis's key directly to June. "Keep this," I said. "If you decide you want me to walk with you and Otis sometime, ask me. Don't ask Evan for me." "I won't." That was the first promise made that morning that belonged to the person making it. The house with Max and Minnie was 3 blocks away. Their owner, Alan Cho, taught at the community college and was already in class. His care card listed a cell number, but Evan had drawn a line through it and written, "Call me first," above his own. I called Alan. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "The cats are fine. I'm calling about the arrangement." "What did Evan say about who would visit?" There was a pause long enough for me to hear a door close on his end. "He said you were his experienced caregiver." "Did he say I had agreed to that?" "I assumed you had." I told him I had not. I did not tell him what to do about Evan. I told him I would feed the cats, clean the 2 litter boxes, and leave the key in the lockbox Alan had originally installed beside the garage. He changed the code while we were on the phone. When I entered, Max appeared immediately and leaned against my ankle. Minnie watched from under a chair. I completed the visit the way I always had. I wrote, "Both ate, water changed." Minnie stayed under chair but watched normally. No advice, no diagnosis, only what I had seen. Alan texted before I left. "I'm arranging someone else starting tomorrow. Thank you for telling me directly." At the next house, a green parakeet named Leo was scheduled for noon. Evan had written "Bird Noon" in capital letters, as if the size of the writing could make the arrangement official. Leo's owner, Denise, worked at the county records office. She answered on the second ring. "I wondered when I'd finally hear your voice," she said. "Why is that?" "Evan said you preferred not to deal with clients." I stopped on the sidewalk. It was one thing to sell my time. It was another to build a version of me that explained why nobody had ever heard me consent. "I dealt with frightened families at a veterinary front desk for 23 years, I said. "I don't mind speaking to people. I did not know I had clients." Denise went quiet. "How much of what I paid reached you?" "None, but please handle money with Evan. What I need from you is today's plan for Leo and where you want your key." That distinction became my rail for the rest of the day. Care with me, money with Evan. I would say what I had done. I would not calculate what he owed, accuse him of a crime, or become the manager of the wreckage. Denise asked me to complete the noon visit and place her key in a small lockbox on the back porch. Her sister would take over the next day. Inside Denise's house, Leo was quiet until I uncovered half of his cage. Then he gave one sharp whistle and tipped his head toward me. A yellow note beside the seed container said that he liked the radio low, never the ceiling fan. It was the kind of precise instruction people leave when they believe the person entering their home has agreed to be there. I turned on the radio and stayed long enough to see him eat. On the counter was one of Evan's blue business cards. Under Pauline Neighbor Services, he had printed "Reliable Help, personally arranged." Personally arranged. The phrase was careful. It did not say he performed every visit. It also did not say the person holding the key had been told she was part of the arrangement. I left the card where it was. At the clinic, people sometimes arrived angry because a bill was larger than they expected, or because an appointment had run late. My job had not been to win those arguments. It had been to find the exact place where one person's understanding separated from another's. Sometimes the answer was a missed sentence, sometimes it was fear. Sometimes somebody had promised what was never theirs to promise. That habit kept me from calling Evan a thief before I knew the shape of what he had done. It also kept me from accepting his word that this was merely awkward wording. I sent Denise one message before locking the key away. Leo 8. Radio left low. Key in your lockbox as requested. She answered, "My sister starts tomorrow. I am canceling the remaining dates with Evan now." One more house had become inaccessible to a promise he had made in my name. At 10:15, Evan called, "What are you doing?" There was no hello. "Calling the owners before I use their keys." "Alan just canceled. He said you told him I was stealing from you." "I told him I never agreed to work for Pauline." "That's not what this is. Then tell me what it is." He breathed through his nose. I pictured him in his car with one hand gripping the wheel, though he might have been sitting at home. Evan had always sounded busiest when he did not want a question to settle. "I coordinate," he said. "People pay for coordination. You help me cover. Did you tell them I was your weekday person?" "They know you're my mother. That was not my question. You're frightening people over wording. I am asking what they were promised. Give me the bag." "I'll return each key where its owner tells me." "Those are business keys. They are keys to people's homes." He stopped talking. For a few seconds I heard traffic near him and the faint tick of a turn signal. That ordinary sound hurt more than shouting would have. My son was moving through the same town where I had carried his school lunch when he forgot it, picked him up after a broken engagement, and sat beside him in an unemployment office when he was 34 and too ashamed to ask which form came next. He knew exactly how I responded when someone was counting on him. He had made that response part of his business plan. "Meet me this evening," I said. "My porch, 7. "You're making this dramatic." 7, Evan." I ended the call. The next 3 visits changed in different ways. Sadie's owner, Monica, was working from home in an upstairs room. She came down when I rang instead of using the key. "Evan said you'd done this for years," she told me. "I did clinic reception for years. I have not worked for his service." She closed her eyes briefly. "I referred 2 people." "You referred based on what you believed. Should I warn them?" "Tell them only what you know. If you gave them my name as part of the service, tell them I never agreed to it." Monica canceled future visits while I stood there. She did not ask me to witness the message. I did not need to. Her decision was not my evidence, it was her decision. At the 5th house, Marisol Vega answered by video from a hotel room in St. Louis. Her terrier, Pepper, had evening coverage through the next morning, according to the card. "I can get home tomorrow afternoon," she said, "but the woman who usually helps me is with her daughter tonight. I don't have anyone until then." I looked at Pepper, who sat beside the door with one ear standing and the other folded over. This was the moment Evan would later point to when he said I was still doing the work. He would not be entirely wrong. A boundary that ignored the creature in front of me would have been easy for him to dismiss and hard for me to live with. "I'll cover tonight and tomorrow morning," I said. "Only until the person you choose meets me here and takes the key." Marisol did not argue. She called the local caregiver she had used the previous year. At 6 that evening, the woman met me on Marisol's front step. Marisol joined us by video, introduced us, and asked me to hand over the key. Nobody spoke for anybody who was absent. The simplicity of it made me tired. Before the handoff, I took Pepper around the block. The terrier tugged toward every mailbox as if each one contained urgent news. I let him investigate a patch of grass while my phone vibrated. "Evan, you're destroying the only income I have." Then, "They paid for a service. You're making it sound dirty." Then, "If you walk away tonight, Pepper is alone." I looked down at Pepper. His replacement was visible through the front window, speaking to Marisol on the phone. I wrote back, "Pepper's owner selected coverage. Every current animal will have an owner-approved handoff. I will not accept visits assigned without my direct agreement. Stop taking new bookings that include me." "Come at 7." He answered, "You have no idea what you've done." That evening I removed the spare key to my house from the small ceramic bowl by the door. Evan had carried one for 12 years. It began when he watered my plants during a trip to see my sister, and it remained because families often let useful arrangements become permanent without discussing them. I put his key in an envelope. Then I sat in my living room without turning on the television. There were explanations available for Evan. Some were even true. He had lost his regular job. His delivery work barely covered gasoline. 2 months earlier, he had been short on rent. When June offered to pay after that first emergency visit, he had accepted. Perhaps he meant to tell me. Perhaps the first week felt temporary, and the second felt awkward, and by the third he needed the money already promised for the fourth. Shame can make a person postpone the truth. It cannot give him another person's yes. I wrote 3 sentences on a sheet of plain paper, then crossed them out because they sounded like a speech. I did not need a speech. I needed to know whether my son would stop. At 6:20, he sent another message. "One more client already paid for tomorrow. Just do 1 week while I sort this out." I called him. "No. You haven't even heard the situation. Who is the owner? We'll discuss it tonight. Has this person met me? That isn't necessary. It is necessary to me. Mom, please, 1 week. Meet me now at the coffee kiosk by Linden Park. Bring no keys." He arrived 15 minutes later in the blue jacket he used for deliveries. His hair was damp along the temples, and he carried 2 paper cups as if the right beverage could turn the meeting into an ordinary visit. I did not take mine. We stood beside the dog park fence while a woman threw a red ball for a shepherd. Each time the ball struck the ground, the dog changed direction without hesitation. "How much?" I asked. "What? How much have people paid for visits you assigned to me?" "I don't have a total in my head." "How much did you tell them I received?" "I never discussed your pay." That was useful. He looked toward the kiosk. "I coordinated everything," he said. "Schedules, keys, client calls. You know what people pay agencies for that?" "I know you told Denise I did not like speaking to clients." "Because I was keeping them from bothering you." "You were keeping them from asking me." His mouth tightened. Then, for the first time, he said something that sounded less prepared. "I was going to lose my apartment." The anger in me shifted. It did not disappear. It made room for the picture of him carrying boxes down a stairwell, avoiding my calls because he could not bear another failure. He was 41 years old, but sorrow does not observe age limits. A mother can see the child inside a grown man at the exact moment she must refuse to treat him like one. "You could have asked me for help," I said, "and here you tell me to make a budget?" "Maybe." "I needed work, not another lecture." "Then you needed work you could do." "I did the hard part." I waited. He heard himself. I saw it happen. His eyes shifted to the dogs beyond the fence. That came out wrong. It came out plain. He told me about the first payment from June. Then Alan had asked if Evan knew someone for his cats. Evan had said his mother had clinic experience. Monica referred Marisol. Denise found his card at the pharmacy. Each new promise borrowed credibility from the visit before it. "I thought I could hire somebody after I caught up," he said. "But you did not tell me." "Because you would have said no." There it was. Not confusion, not wording. He had known the answer and built around it. I asked about the new client. "Her name is Dana Pike," he said. "She has a dog. Easy visit. Morning and afternoon for 3 days. Call her. Not while you're angry. Tell her I did not accept. She already paid." "Who referred her?" He rubbed the paper seam of his coffee cup with his thumb. "June." June had recommended him before that morning, believing the service was staffed by me. That gave the new promise a path I could trace without taking Dana's private information from Evan. "Call Dana now," I said. You said you wanted to keep this private. Correcting your promise to the person you made it to is private. I'll handle it. Then handle it before 7. No new key comes to my house. He picked up both cups. I'm leaving it there. Once you see the instructions, you'll understand. I understand now. He walked away without looking back. I called June from the park. Evan says Dana Pike came to him through you. June inhaled sharply. She works in the office next to mine. I told her you were wonderful with Otis. You told her what you believed.
I gave Evan her number last week.
Would you ask Dana if she is willing to speak with me? Tell her only that I learned today I was included in the plan without being asked? If she does not want contact, leave it there. Of course. While I waited for her answer, I sat in my car with the window open. The dog park was behind me, and every few seconds I heard a tag strike a metal bowl. I thought about calling Dana some other way. Larkspur was not large. I could have searched her name or asked Monica whether she knew her. I did neither. Evan's refusal to connect us did not give me permission to chase a stranger through town. June had made the referral. June could correct it. Dana could decide whether she wanted to hear from me. Those 10 minutes mattered. I was trying to reclaim the right to consent. I could not do that by treating Dana's privacy as an obstacle. By the time I reached home, June had called back. Dana wanted to speak, but June asked whether I preferred a 3-way text, so nobody had to repeat what another person said. I agreed. Dana agreed. June opened the thread and then mostly stepped out of it. Dana wrote, June says you did not accept the visits, is that correct? I answered, correct. I have never met you and did not agree to care for your dog. I am sorry you were told otherwise. The typing dots appeared, vanished, and appeared again. I have a next-door neighbor named Carla who already has my backup key. She offered to cover, but I did not want to impose for 3 days. I chose the paid service because Evan said you were confirmed. I wrote, please choose the person you trust. I will not receive or use your key. Dana said she would call Carla immediately. 10 minutes later, she returned to the thread. Carla confirmed she will cover. I have told Evan not to send anyone. Thank you for telling me before I left town. The relief I felt was almost physical. It was not because somebody had rescued me. Dana had already built trust with her neighbor. June had corrected the referral she had made. I had told the truth early enough for both choices to matter. I set my phone down and looked at the empty hook near my kitchen door. The canvas key bag had hung there most weekdays. I had returned every existing key to its owner or to the person that owner selected. For the first time in weeks, the hook held nothing. At 7:12, Evan's car pulled into my driveway. He came up the walk carrying another canvas bag. You're late, I said through the screen door. I had to rearrange everything you blew up. Dana canceled. He climbed the first porch step. Dana is upset. She'll calm down. Her neighbor Carla has the dog covered. His face changed. How do you know Carla? I don't. Dana knows her. June introduced Dana and me after you said June made the referral. You went behind my back. I went through the person whose recommendation you used. He held up the bag. The instructions are simple. The dog will be alone tomorrow if you keep performing this little protest. For 1 second, the old reflex rose in me whole. Take the bag. Fix tomorrow. Fight about principle after nothing living is at risk. Then I remembered Dana's message. Carla confirmed. She will cover. Evan was no longer describing danger. He was trying to recreate it. I opened the screen door but stayed inside. I will not touch that bag. You'd punish a dog to punish me? Dana says Carla is covering. Dana doesn't know what she wants. She paid for reliable care. Call her. I've been talking to clients all day because of you. Call Dana and tell her you assigned me without asking. He set the bag on the top step. Just take the key tonight. If Carla shows up tomorrow, fine. No. He looked older than he had at the park, his shoulders rounded forward. He was frightened. I knew that, and I did not need to pretend otherwise to hold my ground. "I'm going to lose the root," he said. "You did not have a root. You had my time. You're my mother." "Yes." "Does that mean nothing?" "It means I gave you a private chance to correct this. It does not mean you can volunteer me after I say no." He stared at me. Then his phone chimed in his pocket. "Dana has already told you not to send anyone," I said. "Call her." Maybe it was the certainty in my voice. Maybe he understood that putting the bag down would not transfer anything except canvas to a porch. He took out his phone and called. "Dana, it's Evan. I'm here with my mom." He listened. "Yes, I saw your text." Another pause. "No. She had not confirmed before I took the booking." The sentence seemed to empty him. He sat on the porch step. Dana's voice was faint through the speaker, but I heard her say Carla was already with the dog. She told Evan to return the labeled key to her the following afternoon. She did not shout. She did not threaten him. She ended the arrangement. Evan lowered the phone. 3 more notifications appeared on his screen. I could not read them, and I did not ask. Alan, Denise, and Monica had each said they would address future service and unused payments with him directly. Their choices were reaching him now. I picked up the envelope from the hall table. "This is your spare key to my house." He did not take it at first. "Seriously?" "For the next 6 weeks, contact me only by email about returning client keys or correcting what owners were told. Do not come inside. Do not assign me work. Do not ask another person to ask me." 6 weeks? "Yes." "You planned that?" "I decided it." He took the envelope. "And after 6 weeks?" "That depends on what you do during them. It does not depend on how sorry you feel tonight." His eyes filled, which made mine fill too. I did not turn that into proof that the boundary was cruel or wrong. Tears tell you something hurts. They do not decide what happens next. He picked up Dana's bag. At his car, he stopped and looked back. I thought he might offer one last defense. Instead, he said, "I did work, Mom." "I know you did some work." "It wasn't nothing." "No, it wasn't nothing. That is why you need to tell the truth about which part was yours." He nodded once and drove away. I closed the door. The house was so quiet that I could hear the small click when the latch settled. I stood there longer than I expected. Victory is too bright a word for what I felt. My son had lost income. Several people had learned he lied. I had removed his key from my home. Relief came, but grief arrived first. The next morning was Tuesday. At 7:30, I woke before my alarm and reached for my phone. No reminder waited on the screen. No animal needed me at 8. No bag hung by the door. I made coffee and carried it to the porch. At 8:15, an email arrived from Evan with the subject line, "Key returns." It contained 4 short lines. "Dana tomorrow, 2 p.m. Denise left in lockbox." Alan already changed code. Monica has hers. I answered only, "Received." That afternoon, June called to ask whether I could tell her exactly how much she should request back. "I can tell you which visits I completed," I said. "I can't tell you what Evan owes you. You and he need to settle the money." I listed the dates I remembered because they were in my phone calendar. I did not give an opinion about the price. I did not use words like fraud or wages. Those questions belonged elsewhere. My part was plain enough. I had never agreed to be sold as staff. Denise sent a message saying her sister had taken over Leo's visits. Alan confirmed both cats were covered. Marisol sent a photograph of Pepper beside the caregiver she had chosen. Monica wrote that the 2 people she referred had canceled. The route ended because the people who believed it was staffed no longer believed that. No board met. No officer knocked on Evan's door. No hidden contract appeared. He lost the service he could not provide after the person providing it withdrew. The money did not settle as neatly. June wanted the unused part of her 6-week payment back. Denise had paid through Friday. Alan said he considered the completed visits worth something, even though the arrangement had been misrepresented. Their amounts differed, and so did their patience. Evan tried once to pull me into it. His email said, "If you confirm the visits were done professionally, Alan will stop disputing the full charge." I answered, "I can confirm the dates I entered and what I observed. I cannot describe an employment arrangement that did not exist or negotiate your charge." He did not reply for 2 days. When he did, the message contained only a list of dates and a question mark beside one visit to Max and Minnie. I checked my calendar, corrected the date, and sent it back. That was the narrow kind of help I had offered. Truth about my own actions, not protection from the consequences of his. I worried that even this was too much. Then I imagined doing the opposite, refusing to confirm a completed visit merely to make his position worse. That would have tied my honesty to his punishment. I wanted my honesty to stand on its own. By Friday, he had emailed each owner a correction. June forwarded hers to me after asking permission. I described my mother as part of my regular weekday coverage. She had not agreed to that role and was not paid. I should have told you who was actually providing care and obtained her consent before accepting bookings. I am handling key returns and questions about unused visits directly. It was not eloquent. It was specific. I did not call him. The first week, I kept noticing empty hours as if they were missing furniture. At noon on Wednesday, I found myself standing in the kitchen with my shoes on. I had nowhere to go. I took them off. The second week, I put them on deliberately and walked to the library. I stayed until I had chosen 2 novels. No alarm pulled me toward a back door or feeding card. The third week, Evans sent an email with no subject line. I found hourly work unloading morning deliveries at Bell's Market. I know that doesn't fix anything. I'm telling you because I used to make every update into a request. I read it twice. Then I moved it to a folder and did not answer. Holding a boundary did not require punishing every honest sentence with silence forever. It did require letting 6 weeks mean 6 weeks. June respected that better than either of us expected. She did not carry messages from Evan. She did not ask me to forgive him. Once, she invited me to join her and Otis on the Riverside Path. "A walk," she said, "not coverage. I'll be there." After 6 weeks, I told her. After 6 weeks. On the first Tuesday after the 6 weeks ended, I met them by the sycamore tree near the path entrance. Otis rose from the grass when he saw me. His body still moved at the careful pace of an older dog, but the leash tightened toward me. June held out a folded bill and smiled. For half a second my stomach turned. Then she laughed and opened her hand. It was a grocery coupon. "Sorry," she said. "That was a terrible joke." It was. "Do you want me to stop laughing?" "In another minute." We started down the path. There was no key in my pocket. June carried Otis's water. If she needed to cancel the next week, she would call me. If I did not want to go, I would say so. These were small arrangements, but small arrangements were where the trouble had begun. They were also where trust could begin again. Near the river, June told me Evan had returned her unused payment in 2 parts. I had not asked. "You don't have to report on him," I said. "I know. I'm reporting on me." I got my money back, and I won't hire through a friend's family story again without speaking to the person doing the work. That seems fair. Dana says the same. How is her dog? Carla spoiled him for 3 days. I smiled. Dana had trusted Carla with a key long before she ever called Evan. She had not been alone. Evan had simply kept each of us looking toward him instead of toward one another. Once Dana knew the truth, she could turn to someone she already trusted. After the walk, I sent him one email. "I am willing to meet for 30 minutes at Linden Park on Thursday. No requests, no keys, no discussion of me working with you. If that does not suit you, we can wait another month. He answered, "It suits me." He was already on the bench when I arrived. He wore his market name tag because he had come straight from work. His hands were red from cold storage. For the first few minutes, neither of us mentioned Pauline. He asked whether the gutters had held during the rain. I asked whether morning deliveries were permanent. Then he said, "I used your kindness as if it were equipment I owned." The sentence was polished enough that I suspected he had practiced it. That did not make it false. "You also used the animals," I said. "Every time I hesitated, you made their needs the reason I could not say no." "I know." "Do you?" "Pepper already had someone on the way when I told you he'd be alone." I knew because Marisol had texted me. I said it anyway. That admission hurt in a new place. He had not merely believed I would rescue. He had tried to keep me rescuing after the danger was gone. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "That does not make me ready to give you a key." "I didn't ask." "You didn't." He looked across the park. "What happens now?" "For now, one phone call a month. I will initiate it. If you need practical help, ask me directly and accept the answer. You do not come by without an invitation." "And holidays?" "We will decide when there is a holiday in front of us." He nodded. I had imagined that a repair conversation would end with an embrace or a clean declaration that we would be all right. We did neither. He left first because his bus came before mine. At the curb, he raised one hand, then he got on without asking me for a ride. That was not forgiveness completed. It was changed behavior visible in a small place. The monthly calls continued. The first lasted 11 minutes. The second lasted 20. Once, Evan asked if I could help him move a bookcase on a Saturday. I said no because I had plans. He said, "All right," and asked nobody else to call me. My plans were a morning walk with June and Otis and lunch by myself at a diner where no one knew I had once carried 7 keys through town. I did not become a pet care business. I did not reopen Pauline under honest management. That would have turned my freedom into a more respectable version of the same route. I chose one walk a week because I liked June, and because Otis stopped at every patch of clover as if time were something the three of us could spend without accounting for it. Late that autumn, we reached the fork where the paved path returned toward the parking lot, and the dirt path followed the river for another mile. Usually we took the short way because June had an appointment or I had library books due. That morning, there was nothing waiting. Otis stood between the paths and looked back at me. June loosened the leash. "Which way?" I checked no phone. I owed no key. Nobody had assigned the hour. "The long way," I said, and that was the way we went.